If you remember the last video, Sherman the Buick was doing some really weird stuff with his newly rebuilt engine, and when I reached out to the experts, all of them agreed it had to do with that weird box on top of the engine that mixed fuel and air in an imprecise ratio called the carburetor. I tried to adjust it myself with no luck, and I just sent the whole 9 yards off to get rebuilt, and look at this beautiful unit that's returned. For a cost of less than a house payment, but more than a car payment, I got this carburetor back that was completely rebuilt and ready to run. Hey Tom, it's Joe. I just got this installed and it looks great. The choke works. Can you take me through your process of how you restored this carburetor?
Sure, why not? Let's get started. The first thing I do is I evaluate what I have. And the first thing that you do is you check the throttle shafts. And I don't just go ahead and do front and rears automatically. If they're, within a certain specification, I just continue to use them. Before I put the carburetor all together, I put the accelerator pump in, I put some fuel in that bowl, and I operate the accelerator pump to make sure that it's squirting. As you can see, I clean the linkage, I clean all the screws, I clean everything.
Now, I noticed that this choke housing is brand new, right? I'd have a problem with that choke piston not fitting in the bore like it was warped, and you were able to just buy this off the shelf from Edelbrock, right?
If the choke housing is warped, there's really no way that you can get it back. For years before that choke was available from Edelbrock, and I was going crazy trying to find good housings, They make all that stuff new, so, it's not cheap, but, it's available, which is good.
Now, I noticed the bottom of the carburetor was all shiny and new, and you had that done to ensure a good seal, right?
These things have been on and off the car how many times in 50 plus years. So usually, I bring it to the machine shop and they put it on their mill and they mill the bottom of it to make sure it's flat, which is what I did to yours.
I know you just don't do this because you have spare time to kill, and I really appreciate this because this is the factory carburetor that came on this car in 1964, and I really appreciate having this back on this motor.
I do it because I enjoy doing it, and I want to see you, the consumer, happy with what I've done.
I am very happy, and I'm fixing to give this thing the start for the first time. Thank you, Tom. You just saw and heard the high idle drop down to a normal idle, and those are all good signs. Now it's time for the next step. Next, I've got to set the timing. My Australian Shepherd Luna is the special guest for this afternoon. Setting the timing is just telling the engine when you want the spark to go off when there is fuel and air in the cylinder. On newer cars, it's all computer controlled. If you go back to the Ford Model A's, Model T's, there was actually a knob on the steering wheel for you to set the timing. On a Buick like this, you have to set the initial timing. You got to tell it where to start, and then after that, it uses springs in the distributor, and as you drive, it will adjust it for you, but it still has to be set correctly at the starting point for it to do the math mechanically. The information of where to start is found in the service manual. Here you see I hold the timing light, the strobe light, with one hand while I rotate the distributor with my other. If we look at this engine when it's not running, I'm using the strobe light to see this little line and moving the distributor so it'll move up to 2.5 degrees. Once that's done, hearing protection comes on and I check the settings at multiple revolutions per minute. Now satisfied, it's time to put the air cleaner on it and take it for a spin. But when I slam the hood, see how it doesn't fit right on the right side? Yeah, it's because I slammed it on my GoPro.
Thanks for calling GoPro.
So I accidentally slammed a car hood on my camera? I'd like to thank the GoPro company for sending me a brand new camera for $0, even though it was my fault it was broken. With a new camera, a newly rebuilt and newly adjusted carburetor, it was time to get Sherman out on the road. The initial test drive went great until I went wide open throttle. At that point, I got some sort of bog. Watch and listen. was back to my workshop for inspection, but I couldn't get it to mess up again under similar circumstances. I changed my electronic ignition back to points. I went ahead and changed both my fuel filters, and they were clean, and I checked my fuel pressure and it was at an acceptable level. But when I went to test drive it again, I got the same sort of bogging issue when I got into the throttle. With the carburetor being the only thing that changed on the engine, I figured that's where the problem had to be. So I stuck the GoPro camera in the air cleaner and watch along as I take it to wide open throttle. Now remember, the throttle's been held down this whole time. Now we're going to let off and just go back to idle. I didn't understand why it appeared the carburetor would just stop dumping fuel at wide open throttle, so I emailed Tom Telesco. He came back with a suggestion to check the fuel pressure under load while driving. In order to do that, I bought a remote fuel pressure gauge. In fact, I bought 3 of them because 2 of them were wildly inaccurate. The one that ended up not getting returned was the quick car. I bought this T-fitting for the fuel sender, and thankfully an online review led me to check inside it. Sure enough, when I looked in mine, there's aluminum hanging down that I got out, or that would have just been in my fuel system. With the sender installed, it was ready to get out on the road and test the theory. Watch as I pull out and press the gas down. Take a look how the pressure drops as I'm accelerating, getting down into the points. Now that I definitely knew I had a fuel pressure problem, and I'd previously replaced all the hoses at the front of the car, I moved to the back. I replaced both my supply and return hoses, along with my fuel sender and pickup. When I went to inspect the tank, I saw this orange thing in it that I thought was a fuel spout, and I got a fiberglass rod from the home improvement store. When I pulled it out, it was a toy carrot. With the age of it, I don't think my kids put it in. I think a child older than them put it in. With a new sender put in the tank and the new fuel hoses hooked up, it was time for me to take it for another test drive. Check out this obstacle course. Long hill, very high grade, and we're not dipping in the points anymore on the fuel pressure. But you know what? This isn't a fun test. Let's do a fun test. Alright, we are coming up on the intersection where Sherman would always die if I hit the gas. Let's see what he does this time. Oh my goodness. I just put another 25 miles on Sherman, and he ran wonderfully. It is so great to have an engine that's rebuilt and a carburetor that's in tune. Thank you so much for watching.